Texas is one of the many states with Republican governors that's attempting to pass voter suppression bills. And the Democrats in the state legislature are fighting back. This is now the second time that they have essentially fled the state house in order to prevent a vote on the suppression bill. Now, there are enough Republicans in the state legislature to pass the suppression bill, which is why Democrats have no choice but to use this tactic. The move denied the Republican-led legislature a quorum, leaving it with too few lawmakers in attendance to conduct business. That means it could not, at least for now, vote on the bill. Now, this tactic has led to threats from Governor Abbott, including the threat of arresting these Democratic lawmakers. I'll get to his specific statement in just a second, but understand how the rules in the state legislature work. 2/3 of the 150-member chamber must be present to conduct business. When the House is in session, legislators can vote to lock chamber doors to prevent colleagues from leaving, and can order law enforcement to track down lawmakers who have already fled. And the rules apparently go even further than that. As I mentioned, Greg Abbott has not only threatened to continue calling for special sessions to ensure the passage of this bill, he also says that he's willing to arrest these lawmakers. As soon as they come back in the state of Texas, they will be arrested. They will be cabined inside the Texas Capitol until they get their job done. And again, I can't even believe this, but there is some indication that he would be able to do that. I'll give you those details based on the state law in just a second, but go ahead, Cenk.
Peter Hamby on Super Chat reminded me, did Greg Abbott threaten to arrest Ted Cruz when he ran away to Cancun in the middle of their emergency when people's lives are on the line? No, of course not. Then that actually affected real people. This affects Republican power. So that's when they're willing to arrest people. So look, what I can't stand is the uneven playing field. So we had a similar situation in that House, and where the Democrats could have actually arrested Republican legislators for doing something similar. Of course, the Democrats were never, ever, ever going to contemplate that, let alone do it. Whereas the Republicans at the drop of a hat are like, oh, you won't let us block voting rights for black people? We'll have you arrested, okay? And so, and do I think they mean it? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For Republicans, arresting their political opponents is Tuesday. It has begun, right? So there's nonstop threats of violence. Now there's threats of arresting their opponents. I want to give credit to the Democratic legislators in Texas. It's brave. Hey, look, they're among the very few Democrats in the country that are actually trying to fight. And so
that's true, yeah.
I mean, Democrats at the national level, their go-to move is surrender, even when they're in charge. Even when they have the House, the Senate, and the White House, what's the first thing they did? They said, we surrender to the Republicans. We need their approval for all the bills. It has to be bipartisan. It's not my administration, it's Mitch McConnell's administration. Preemptive unilateral surrender when you have all the control in the world, right? But here's some Democrats in Texas with a fighting spirit saying, well, there's no way we can block the vote. No, we found a way. If you don't have quorum, you can't vote. So we're gonna leave the state so you can't have quorum. It's the second time they've done that. It didn't work the last time, but at least they're trying. And by the way, they're going to Washington to draw attention to, hey, even if they get passed in Texas, you can nullify it by doing federal legislation. You remember the thing that you said was your #1 priority, HR 1 for the People Act, right? And they're going to try to pressure national Democrats to do it. But of course, they didn't get the memo on national Democrats. National Democrats are not Democrats, they're Republicans.
I know, I mean, it's interesting because while these Texas state Democratic lawmakers were in Washington, D.C., that's where they fled to. They kept repeating that they're hoping that the federal voting rights law that passes or legislation that passes will supersede whatever happens in the state of Texas. But if they're putting their eggs in that basket, they're in a lot of trouble. Because I mean, really I don't see a path forward when it comes to For the People Act, right? I mean, there's no way that's gonna pass with the Senate filibuster in place, which requires 60 senators to vote in favor of the legislation for it to pass. And even the watered down version of a voting rights bill that was presented by Joe Manchin, a corporate Democrat, conservative Democrat in the Senate. Republicans aren't in favor of that either. In order for a federal voting rights bill to pass, they would need to do away with the filibuster, and Democrats are unwilling to do that. They're just unwilling to fight to get rid of it.
Look, I'd call them cowards, but they're not. They're complicit. Banches, Sinema, Chris Coons, 8 Democrats voted against minimum wage, raising the minimum wage. All 8 of those are completely owned corporate Democrats. They might as well be Republicans. It doesn't matter at all. 2 of them are from Delaware. They take their marching orders from the top corporate Democrat in the country, Joe Biden. This is all a ruse. And guys, look, we tell you this stuff and you could see if we're right or wrong, right? If it turns out we're wrong and Biden is FDR 2.0 and he passes giant reconciliation bills and they pass the For the People Act, and this brave action by the Texas Democrats winds up creating enough of a delay that the federal government steps in and the Democrats deliver at the national level because they have control over the entire government, great, then I'm thrilled to be proven wrong. But I'm not gonna be proven wrong, and Joe Biden isn't going to do anything about Manchin or Sinema. In fact, Joe Biden's current position is he's in favor of the filibuster.
Exactly.
He's in favor of punching himself in the face. So these Democrats are frauds, total utter frauds. So your 2 choices are frauds and fascists. That's the sorry state that America is in right now. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.